you know, friends, family concepts, I don't know. I guess my family's different. Like family's supposed to live within the same concept of cohesiveness. Like my family always has like a strong faith. Like all my sisters religious. My sister Kim is extra religious. Like she spent the night of my house, and in the middle of the night she yells out, "Hallelujah!" And it's clear as day. She said in the middle of sleeping, she said, "Hallelujah!" Or Howard Hewitt. You know. But see, my sister never liked Shalimar, so I knew it wasn't Howard Hewitt. You can't shake her faith. So much so that she had a brand new car and came into New York for the first time, which is probably the last time she's gonna ever drive a car in New York. But she came to New York in a new car and gets sideswiped by a New York City cab, and end up breaking her hip. And sister, she's like, hey, the devil's just trying to test me, but I will remain strong. Because the accident didn't stop her, slowed her down maybe. But she went through grueling therapy and exercise sessions, using up all her sick days and vacation days, and went back to work. So then it was a while later, she came back to New York to go to Creflo Dollar's church, to get a healing on her hip, which was still painful. She's walking around talking and around and started running late. So she had the last bus to go home. She had to rush to catch the bus. So she gets to the bus and the bus is just about to pull off. And the driver sees her, of course it's a New York driver, and decided like he's not gonna wait. So no, he's getting to take off, and my sister's running, and she trips over this metal seat pavilion on a sidewalk and fell in front of the bus. So now the driver has to stop, because the last thing he wants to be thought of is a jerk and an accessory. So now she ended up breaking the other hip. And she became known as the only person to ever get injured leaving a healing. And it changed her life. It changed her walk. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it's like, yo, it's a shame you don't like rap music because with that current gait you walk with, you like look like the embodiment of hip hop. But my sister walks by faith, not by sight. Not that she didn't see where she was going, but 2 Corinthians 5:7. My sister never loses her faith. Like my sister had her job for a while now, and she built up all this vacation and sick time. And all of a sudden she had to start using it all because of these accidents, which is causing some friction between the supervisor. And the supervisor's like, well, you can't keep taking off so much time that you acquired. My sister's like, well, it's for therapy. So this became a constant form of contention between this supervisor and my sister. And my sister, wouldn't let her get it. Sister would pray and pray for her and go to therapy and pray for her and go to therapy and on and on. But for some reason, it began to fester with the supervisor, who wasn't appreciating my sister using her own time to heal. So it got to the point where the supervisor was like, look, you need to think about your job. As I know people higher up, and if you keep taking time off, we're not going to have time for you anymore. Like an ultimatum. And when she said that, the next day, this lady died, dropped dead. You know what the medical people refer to as a brain aneurysm, one of those words that people use to explain God's will, you know. And I always kept saying, the supervisor knows people higher up. And I was like, no, my sister knows people higher up. In fact, my sister knows people who are higher up. You could even say the people my sister know are most high. And I tell people, I'm start telling this at the comedy clubs. People say, why would you do that? Because I'm going to tell the audience, hey, I'm telling you this because if you don't laugh, I'm going to tell my sister. And that's right. Fake it so you can make it. See, all my sisters are strong like that. Like no one dare would mess with my sister Missy, because people would tell her, like, do you know who that is? That's Big Mike's daughter. Like, what? You mean Grumpy? Yeah, I can hear the resemblance. But all my sisters had a strong relationship with God. It's almost like they would almost compete to see who loves the Lord more. Like on one Sunday, my sister Karen gets a call from our brother Shane asking if she can take him to the hospital. And my sister's like, well, I can't right now because I'm about to go to church. And my brother's grimacing on the phone saying, I think I'm having a heart attack. I need to go to the hospital now. And my sister Karen was like, well, the service ends at 11. I can't imagine like my brother, like, you're not gonna help me? My sister said, of course I'm gonna help you. I'm going to pray for you. And I'm thinking, like, you couldn't just take him to the hospital first. Like, you start thinking about all those helpful sayings that go through your head, like help those in need, reach one, teach one, leave a penny, take a penny. I mean, my sister Karen had a van. She could have just rolled with the door slit open and drove through the entrance, and he could have just rolled out without her having to stop. And if you ever seen my brother's head, you know how feasible that is. But I guess promptness is next to godliness. But it went to the first hospital, and I think the hospital was really nervous because they didn't know what they could do. It was like they was thinking like he's not getting oxygen to the brain. Because the nurse was like, "Oh my God, his brain is swelling," and someone had to tell him, "No, that's just how his head looks naturally." Yeah, I'm not sure how natural that is because, as the story is told, that when my brother was 1 year old, my mother had this used car where the door would never open on one side until this one day she hits a pothole and the door flew open and my brother flew out the back of the car, and fell backwards. And she said it felt like the car ran over a tree. So my mother's scared. She's thinking like, oh, he must have been run over. So she's like, stop the car. She's praying. She jumps out and runs into the street. And she sees my brother on the side of the road crying with tire tread marks on his head. So the story is she ran over his huge head, but he was saved. And that's all that matters, is that he was saved. Now, the car, on the other hand, I mean, you always hear people talk about replacing shocks, but the transmission, I mean, my brother's head is powerful. I mean, you look at him now. I mean, now you can't really, but he really had to grow into his head. And as a kid like me, who was into comic books as much as I was, I thought my brother might have superpowers. I thought, reading the X-Men, I thought he might have like telekinetic brain powers. Maybe he's a mutant like the X-Men. Like you maybe be able to help the family out and pick out the number. But he'd be able to charm women, even as a little kid, with this big head on his infantile body. My mother would marvel how grown women would sit and carry a conversation with this little boy, because the family is like, oh, that's a little boy. But to these women, they thought he was just a smooth midget. So my mother had 4 kids before me, like way, way before me. And that gets expensive because they were all like 1 year apart. So like stuff like Halloween, to buy 4 complete costumes, that'd be costly. So what they do, they each get a mask, have to make the rest of their costumes. So my brother thought, to save money, he could just get a motorcycle helmet and be Evel Knievel, the motorcycle stunt performer back then. So he got this big motorcycle helmet and made a cape that he wore on this small body, this big helmet and a cape, and he's wearing green pants and a green turtleneck, and thought he was going to be Evel Knievel, and went to a Halloween costume contest and won first place. Now, of course, they didn't know he was supposed to be Evel Knievel. He won first place because they thought he was Gazoo the alien from the Flintstones. But my brother had always been the ladies' man. All the ladies liked my brother. I mean, even the shape of his head didn't dissuade the ladies from him. He'd embrace it. That became like part of his rap. Like, that's right, ladies, and what they say about guys with big heads. I'm like, what? Your shower cap's a pillowcase. But he was that smooth. Even despite his childhood nickname. Like my mother had a nickname for him. I know he was known as Doodles. She would call him, oh, my little Doodles. Started calling him that. She would call him that even in public. Was after a while began to like embarrass him. Being called that, and he told my mother that it was kind of embarrassing him. And my mother, being so magnanimous and understanding, she tried to help Shane out. And when she started calling him that, she started pronouncing that name with an L in it to make it sound different from what she was originally calling him. Yeah. Apparently, his diaper situation was legendary. But my brother has always been an inspiration, even when he was in school. I mean, if they build a time machine and go back in time and look in Shane's classrooms, He'd always look like he was ahead of the class from the back row. I mean, even his science teacher was impressed with Shane, amazed. Shane's science teacher was so inspired by Shane that after his school tenure was up, he gave up teaching and started his own business. That's right. He invented 3D glasses because he was inspired by the presence of Shane. But I was just shocked that my brother, because he was too young to have a heart attack, And what caused the heart attack? Smoking. So now I get on soapboxes and tell everyone to give up smoking. And of course, that don't sit well with people. You tell people to give up smoking, you got to fight. Because people would defend it, Some people got excuses like, hey, I smoke e-cigarettes, so I'm healthy. These are electronic cigarettes, so it's good. Until years later, they find out they got digital emphysema. I don't trust any substitutional fix. I mean, look what happened when synthetic weed came out. How do you have people ODing off synthetic weed? I mean, it's weed. I mean, really, how bad is the weed if you have to take so much of it to start to feel a buzz that you die? So smoking or fake smoking, just give it all up, Because you don't want this thing to get critical. And it became like a wake-up call for my brother. And I think it must have really terrified Shane, like scared him so bad that his hair turned white. My brother's hair is literally snow white now. He like Steve Martin with a tan. His hair is so white, the only person that is impressing is my Uncle Harry. My mother's brother calls my mother asking, what is Shane's secret? People wondering, does Shane dye his hair? Like, who would dye his hair that color? Brand new just for men, just a touch of gray. Well, now it looks like he's using a touch too much. And it's not that it's white, it's just that it's a whole lot of white. I mean, the vast whiteness is encompassing, is just like it takes over a whole amount of area space. It's kind of, it's kind of like when the airports close because there's snow on the runway. And, it almost looks like him and my mother use the same salon. Now, my mother, and I should have brought this up in the first podcast about getting older, but my mother has gotten older, and